Well, perceptions of hypnosis run the gamut. If people aren't educated about what hypnosis is, it's amazing. I've actually had someone come to me and ask me if hypnosis was like witchcraft. It's just a coincidence that here we are in Massachusetts, home of Salem, Massachusetts, but the idea of things like hypnosis being like witchcraft is still out there. Most of the time people think that hypnosis is just something to control people, to make them do funny things. You really cannot make someone do something under hypnosis that they wouldn't ordinarily do. That's a fallacy. If they never do a certain thing, you can't force them to do it under hypnosis. It is amazing what hypnosis really can do. People are surprised when they find out. Because under hypnosis, you're working directly with the unconscious mind, the subconscious. You can actually get to things that you couldn't normally, like working with post-traumatic stress disorder. It's amazing. People would never think that working in hypnosis that you can actually cure PTSD. You know, post-traumatic stress comes from many things, but absolutely, someone who's had the trauma of something great like a bomb going off nearby them or seeing people killed. That is the post-traumatic stress disorder that I'm talking about. An example of something that's not war-related would be someone that's been in an auto accident, something horrific, something that changed their lives. They may have come out of it with having nightmares about driving, about being in another accident. They may not be able to drive safely in a car from that time on. Absolutely. I've helped someone who had severe trauma. Their accident that they were in was so bad they had to take a whole year of physical therapy to learn how to walk again. They had brain trauma from their accident. At the end of that treatment by medical staff, they were still recovering physically from that. However, all the emotional problems that they had were gone. They could now go out and drive in places they couldn't before. They could do things that they were afraid to do before. The fear from the trauma went away. The thoughts of the trauma no longer held its grip on them. They could think about accidents now without actually shaking or tremoring or anything like that, because the fear and the emotions around the trauma had released.
When I first contacted Kevin Martin, it was about a year and a half ago, after having a traumatic brain injury from a car accident. I was grabbing at straws. Various forms of medications and psychological therapy had no effect pretty much on the anxiety and fears I was having. After one meeting with Kevin, I started noticing some differences. And in 3 visits, it went from uh, a guy who was just afraid of himself in the world and alone to never being alone, not having a spare moment without a different date. And now we're a year and a half later. I'm back at the dream job that I had before the accident. I'm getting married, and there's nothing outrageous that I have any fear of now. It's an outrageous, amazing difference without medication, without years of therapy and blaming things on my mother.
And with something severe like post-traumatic stress, you have to be very cautious with how you approach it, because if you have someone relive it, they'll relive it the exact same way that it was in the first place. They will feel the same emotions, and it's very traumatic, of course. However, if you're working instead of with content, with actually what went on, and you're working more the context about what actually is happening in their mind, in their body, then it's a whole different thing. But in essence, what we end up doing, what I end up doing, is regressing them to a time before the trauma and working from there, and working very safely and very cautiously. But in the end, the emotions around the trauma, and that's what we work towards, is what I work towards, is the emotions around the trauma are gone. It is a matter of a few sessions that I treat people.
A few sessions?
Yes. Yes. In just a few sessions with hypnosis and related techniques, something like post-traumatic stress disorder can be gone. It's a phenomenal process for everyone, and every time I work with a client and go through it, even I'm amazed. And believe me, the clients are very amazed.